What does the world look like to someone who is visually impaired? Yes, tell us all what you see. What do you see? What do you see? Tell us what is right, what is wrong, what is art, what is vision. We welcome you to A Blind Guy's View.
Hello, we are live again. I'm having fun with this. Good to see you guys. Get it? So this week, well, just tonight, because we're going to do a few of these this week, I thought I would wrap up NFL Week 1 with my very own power rankings. And I think I found a way to do this that I think is fairly fair and not quite as subjective. Obviously, this is subjective, but maybe a bit more balanced way of doing it. I'm using a website called PubMeeple, and what it allows you to do is you enter in your options, and then it runs this versus this, this versus this, and you run through that, choosing one over the other, and then it ranks them for you. So you can't just sit there and go, oh, I think this is better than that. It actually makes you pick which one you think is better. So I entered 18 teams, I think, and we'll just run through this. I won't show the screen because I don't want to ruin it for you guys. I'll actually just run through it. I'll tell you who didn't make the list once I get to the top 10. So starting at, and full disclosure, I am a Miami Dolphins fan. So I don't think I was too over the top about that, but I do want you guys to know that in case you have some complaints, you can email me. So, number 10, and also, sorry guys, also, I am operating under the presupposition and the assumption that this is how I view these teams right now. So I don't care what happened last year. I don't care, who won the Super Bowl, all that. Just after watching Week 1, these are the teams that I think are the best. And right now, this is how I think they would stack up with each other. So, number 10, I've got the Steelers. I did watch most of this game. They never actually got into the end zone. They play extremely boring football, I think, but they're a good team. And you kick 6 field goals and you still win the game. It means you've got an awesome defense. They apply a lot of pressure. And so I definitely think the Steelers are worthy of being in the top 10. There's a few teams right behind them that may leapfrog them if the Steelers start struggling, because we know in today's NFL, if you don't have answers at quarterback, you're not going to have the best season. It used to be, I remember watching football a lot in the 1990s, and you had only a handful of the super elite quarterbacks, or even the real good quarterbacks, and then about half the league had really almost kind of scrubs, but they were able to, it just seemed like there was a shortage of good quarterbacks. And now it's like 24 to 26, the teams have extremely competent play at the quarterback position, and so it's just changed the league. And I think the Steelers are going to maybe struggle if they don't get that figured out. Number 9, this one's going to maybe trigger some people, but I have right now number 9, the Buffalo Bills. I thought they struggled to put away a team that should be quite a bit inferior to them in the Cardinals. And they were at home, and they just struggled to do it. I think they're going to be a little bit different without Stephon Diggs. Everybody says, oh, they're better when they don't focus on him. I just didn't think they quite had the same explosiveness. I mean, we're going to see what happens on Thursday, but right now, I honestly couldn't put the Bills above any of the teams above them here. So number 8, I've got the Lions. Similar thing, they struggled against a team that I think was inferior. and against the Rams, who were extremely beat up. The Lions were at home. It was in prime time. The stadium was absolutely rocking, and they still had to take it to overtime. The Lions are going to be a good team. I expect them to be better as the season goes on. But right now, I couldn't, in good faith, put them above number 8. Number 7 is my beloved Miami Dolphins. I think Dolphins, Lions, Bills, I think that's a very similar set of teams there. You could put them in any order, and they all kind of played similarly in week 1. They struggled to put away a team that was probably inferior. I think the Jaguars are probably going to be a better team, so the fact Miami struggled against them wasn't as alarming. I watched this game, obviously, because I'm a Dolphins fan, and I thought that Miami came out flat. They came out a little bit off rhythm, and then as the game went, they started clicking. You started seeing they got Waddle involved, they got Hill involved. They're such a unique team in the sense that you can hold them down for a while, and then all of a sudden it just boom, boom, boom. You get a Waddle with a 62-yard reception, Hill with an 80-yard reception, and the game is completely different at that point. And I felt like, if the game had even been longer, if they played 15 more minutes or so, Miami was going to start pulling away at that point. I think that the Jags had been pretty fortunate up to that point that the Dolphins were so out of sync and out of rhythm. And I think that's a sign of actually a pretty good team, is when they're off, they can still win a game. And as a Dolphins fan, that's something I haven't seen, there for quite a while. Last 4 years they've been good, but they're for a 10-year stretch or so. They were just middle of the road, and they just struggled. Whenever they were off, they just would not win those games. So it was good to see that. Okay, number 6, the Texans. I have not checked into this game much, but I do know the Colts are going to be a pretty strong team this year. So the fact that the Texans went into there and got a win proves to me that they're in the top 6. So, like I said, I didn't watch that game, and I haven't gone back and rewatched the plays from it yet. So, top 6, though, they're going to be tough. They're going to be a tough team. The only thing I worry about with the Texans is their division is hard to gauge how good that division actually is going to be. The Jaguars and the Colts could end up being good teams, but they also could end up not being good teams. So it's hard to tell if the Texans are benefiting from that or if they're actually legitimately a contender. Number 5. Now this is my top 5 with the way that I ranked things against each other. It ended up being different than I expected, but I think it's probably more accurate because you guys are going to see I've got the Ravens at number 5. I realize they lost in week 1, but they took the Chiefs to the wire. Technically, I think they could have won that. Some people could say they should have won that. They definitely made a few mistakes. That's kind of seems to be the way the Ravens are a lot, though. Like they're gonna self-inflict some wounds as the game goes on, and if they get that cleaned up, they're an extremely scary team. They're one of the ones that I don't ever like to see my team play. But I couldn't put them any higher than that because they did end up losing the game. But they did take the Chiefs to the wire in Arrowhead. So the Ravens are going to be just fine this year. Number 4, I've got the Chiefs. Don't hate on me. Don't hate on me. I know. But they did last year. But I watched them with the Ravens, and I watched the teams above them. And I just think right now the 3 teams above them are better than the Chiefs right now. They're going to be good. They're going to end up getting better. I expect them to climb up my ranking here. But right now, just based off of week 1, I have to say the 3 teams above them are better. And so then, number 3, we've got the Cowboys. They went into Cleveland and just romped the Browns. Now, it's hard to tell how good the Browns are going to be. So let's take that with a bit of a grain of salt. But it is good to see the Cowboys doing something on the road, which they struggled with last year. And so maybe there's been some improvements there. But you have to be careful with the Cowboys, because I realize this is based on previous years, but they do often come out very strong and end up faltering later on, especially like playoffs and things. So as of right now, I have them at number 3, and I couldn't put them any lower than that, especially if I'm not basing off of anything that happened last year. So I got the Cowboys at 3. I was a little surprised. I thought I'd have the Cowboys above the Eagles, but with the way the ranking worked, I guess I put the Eagles at 2. And with the Eagles, I think what they did down there in Brazil was actually pretty impressive. It's a neutral site. Both teams had to go on a long flight. The field conditions were pretty atrocious. I didn't realize that soccer fields are just built different, which it's interesting to me because soccer cleats have a lot shorter cleats than usually football cleats do, and yet the football players were struggling to get traction. And when I say football, I mean like real football, not soccer. The football players were struggling to get traction on the soccer field, so that was kind of interesting. I would have expected, because soccer players use shorter cleats, that maybe the field would have better traction, but maybe they don't cut quite the same way. So I don't know. I don't like soccer, so I don't really care. But number one, this pains me because I'm not a fan of this team, and I'm just tired. I'm tired of them, going to the Super Bowl and losing all the time. But I've got to put the Niners, after watching them against the Jets. I just think right now you've got to say they're the best playing team right now in the NFL. They didn't have McCaffrey, and now that's a little bit hard to judge. It's a little hard to judge because I don't know how good the Jets actually are. I've thought the Jets have been pretty overhyped this year. Yes, they've got a good defense, but to me, what this seems to happen a lot. You have a division where it's got two established good teams, and then a third team does really well in the offseason, acquires a lot of free agencies, and then everybody starts putting that third team above the other two. It seems like that always happens, and it seems like the third team never actually ends up being as good as people think. I think we've seen that in the Cowboys and Eagles division. It happens a lot. And then with the Bills and the Dolphins being established strong teams, people are like, oh, they kind of want that spoiler effect. Oh, the Jets are the betting favorite to win the division. And it's like, well, how about the Jets actually do something first before we think they're the favorite to win the AFC East? I don't know if you guys realize it, but Tua's never lost to the Jets, and I think Josh Allen's maybe only lost to him once. So obviously the Bills and the Dolphins have had the Jets' number recently, and so I just don't think it's fair to the other two teams to just start pumping the tires on the Jets so quickly. So that was a bit of a rabbit trail. So a long way of saying I'm not sure how good the Niners really are going to be, but after watching the game tonight, I have to put them at number one. So run through it really quickly. You guys can tell me how crazy I am. Let me know in the comments. I did hear Chris Sims the other day say he thought the Jaguars were going to make it in the playoffs and the Dolphins were not. I think that is insane. And I think that the win that Miami had over the Jaguars is going to make it hard for the Jags to get in ahead of them. But here's the top 10 again. Steelers, number 10. Bills, number 9. Lions, number 8. Dolphins, 7. Texans, 6. Ravens, 5. Chiefs, 4. Cowboys, 3. Eagles, 2. And the 49ers, number 1. This is also interesting because to me, the stronger conference is the AFC. And yet on my list right now, I've got the top 3 teams are all from the NFC. So that's kind of interesting. I didn't expect to see that. I just think all the strongest quarterback plays all in the AFC, and that ends up being what matters, which I think is why the AFC has been so dominant in the Super Bowl recently. But we'll see. Maybe one of these top 3 NFC teams will go there and actually beat the Chiefs or beat whichever AFC team's in there. But so those are my thoughts right now. Week 1 power rankings. Let me know in the comments below if you think I'm wrong, who you would move around on this list. I will give you guys maybe the honorable mentions here. Let me look here. Number 11, I had the Chargers. Number 12, I had the Colts. 13, the Jaguars. 14, the Rams. These are a lot of teams that won or lost. 15, the Vikings. I realize they've won. I just don't think they're going to be that amazing this year. 16, the Bengals. The Bengals are really hard to judge because they looked terrible against New England, but the Bengals do that a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised if they come back. 17, I've got the Packers. They've got quarterback issues right now. With the quarterback, they'd be in my top 10 for sure. And then 18, the Jets. Like I said, hard to tell. Good defense. Aaron Rodgers looked okay in the game. It's just really hard to tell how good they're going to be. They've got a really tough schedule, so we'll see. All right. like I said, thank you for joining me, guys. Let me check and see if we had any comments. It's thinking I don't see any comments. So if you guys do hop on and do comment on the video, I will read them and respond to them. And so those are my thoughts for the week 1 power rankings. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my outro here. I'm not used to doing this live yet. But those are my thoughts. Week 1 NFL. I'll see you guys in the next episode of A Blind Guy's View. Laters on the Menjay.
Laters on the Menjay.
Ships on bigger of the waves are skimming, barren summits to the verdant plains. Each horizon is a new beginning, rise and reign. Far from the fjords and the escort